For as long as I can remember, I've liked playing video games. It probably started when I would watch my older cousins play, and I just wanted an invite to the Cool Kids Club. Eventually, we got our own console that would start up somewhat regularly, unlike our NES, and we just took off from there. Most kids played sports or had some kind of extracurricular they did year-round, but I just had like winter basketball from like 3rd to 5th grade. With the rest of my time, I played games, and I was pretty happy about it. I liked a lot of games. Some of my favorites that I can remember from my childhood are like Smash Melee, Sonic Adventure 2, Pokemon Silver, Devil May Cry 4, and like there's definitely a lot more there. One genre, though, that I especially liked was RPGs. I loved sinking dozens, if not hundreds of hours into those bad boys. I think to this day, 2 of my top 3 most played games are RPGs. They were really great at filling time, and they offered a huge world to like captivate my imagination and like get lost in. I frequently got so into the games that I would be playing that they would like define me until I got into a new one, at which point they would just become part of who I was instead of all of who I was. And this lasted all through high school. But then I went to college, and it was kind of hard. My first semester, I really didn't do very well in a lot of my classes. I felt like it was really hard to justify playing games at all when my grades were far worse than they had ever been before. It felt like games were this forbidden fruit, and if I took a bite for the trite act of relaxation and enjoying myself, I would be rewarded with bad grades, which would lead to a bad GPA, which would lead to no internships, which would lead to no jobs, which would lead to starving to death in the cold, or worse, disappointing my family. I was eventually able to pull myself together after 2 years and balance my schooling and gaming in a more healthy way. I graduated with what I consider to be a decent GPA and headed right on to the real world just 2 weeks after graduation for my first full-time job. At first, having a full-time job was really weird. I was free to do whatever I wanted once I was at home, and I never had homework or anything. It was really different. On one hand, being at home was really stress-free, but on the other hand, there were no breaks in the middle of my day like I'd gotten so used to with college. So there was no chilling between classes or playing games on the bus or anything like that. And if you're not out of school yet, let me tell you that I don't know of anything that will actually prepare you for sitting at a desk for 8+ hours a day. I'm going somewhere with this, I swear. So I had been pretty excited for a particular RPG for almost a year, and I was moving into my first solo apartment just a week before release, so adult life was truly in full swing. I even took work off for the release of the game because I could, like an adult. I played it every night after work, like until I fell asleep, which sometimes was just after an hour. I was really enjoying myself, and I couldn't wait for all the characters in the game to come together in the end, because they didn't for any of the main game, did they? So then I got to the end, and there's this big, like, 2 to 3 hour boss gauntlet that you can't save once you've started. And I stomped all the bosses pretty well, so I was like, whatever, take me to the conclusion. I want to see these characters interact. And I got stuck in a healing rut against the final boss for like 35 minutes, and I just, like, lost. And there's a bunch of reasons for that, and I'm not going to get salty about it here. No, sir! No way! It was dumb. The point is, I died and lost 3 hours of progress. If I was still a kid, I would have absolutely gone right back in there and tried again, but I wasn't. It was almost like 10 o'clock at that point, and I had to work the next day, and I was more frustrated than anything. All at once, my opinion of the game drastically changed. I remember reading interviews with the devs where they like proudly stated that there are some boss fights that'll take you upwards of 45 minutes. Like it was a good thing. Like the indicator of quality was the amount of time it takes. And it's like, I didn't have that kind of time anymore, and I also had no idea what I was going to do that fight. There's like this complete BS. He just spawns all these. This is when I realized that gaming as a full-time adult is just not the same as gaming as a kid. We've all seen the graphs on the internet joking about like the time and money and energy over time, right? This rears its ugly head at this point in my life. I used to be really concerned about buying a game because I didn't ever want to get too close to running out of money when I was at school, but now I could buy pretty much every game I wanted. The real problem was, when am I going to play it? What's the point of buying a game if I can't play it? So consider this an introduction to a new way of looking at games through the priorities and criteria of a full-time adult. Here are the criteria that I look at games with nowadays. Does it hook you? If a game isn't good in its first hour, chances are that I'm not going to want to keep playing just in case it eventually gets good. Not to rub people the wrong way, But this is why I'll probably never play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Does it overstay its welcome? Let's say a game starts strong, great. But if it drags in the end or in the middle, that's not great when you've only got so much time to play. I no longer have the patience to wait for a game to get better or to push through the end of a game that started great. Is it easy to pick up? Similar to hooking you, is this a game that I can pick up and have a good time with almost immediately, or do I need to spend a lot of time to get into a session? Games that I consider easy to pick up are like Smash Ultimate or Diablo 3. A game that I had a hard time picking up was Astral Chain because of its really long investigation sections and all the side quests that go with it. I find myself drawn to games that boot up quickly and put you in the game right away. Does it pad itself out? Similar to overstaying its welcome, but this is things like having to go back and forth to places or spending too much time in the menus or the like. Often it's a problem with the game's like interfaces, but sometimes it's designed to take time instead of being interesting. I went back and tried playing Borderlands 2 in the last year, and I was flabbergasted by how much this game that I remember loving so much just has you walking around and doing something X amount of times to get the quest to progress. There's just so much walking in the game. When I didn't know all the dialogue, bits, and punchlines, it wasn't so visible, but I've played the game for like 120 hours, and it's like clear as day now. So there you go. If you're interested in knowing how certain games are, like how they hold up under my grumpy old man criteria, stick around, stay tuned as I go over whatever games I pick up throughout 2020 and see how they feel as a full-time adult.